Welcome to the Motoring Podcast, your weekly discussion of motoring news. This is episode 134 on Tuesday, the 19th of September 2017. Hello, I'm Alan.
Hello, I'm Andrew. And this week we will be talking about how the government decides to ignore a majority now. Imaginary car is still imaginary. The Rebel Alliance outlines its strategy, and we will get to revel in kitschness later on. But First of all, let's talk about how the government has decided to not listen to the people.
Never.
A while ago, they asked the question, and they said about older cars, classic cars, should they be exempt from MOTs? We raised this after Great Escapes first brought it to our attention and in our corner of the internet, and Graham Eason, which was excellent of them to do so. I feel like I want to say 52%, but I can't remember if that's correct. But
I think it was 55%, wasn't it?
Over 50% answered that older cars should not be exempt from MOTs. So, of course, the government has listened and has decided that cars 40 years and older will be exempt from MOT.
Starting on the 20th of May, 2018, which seems like a slightly arbitrary date. And then rolling from there on with the 40-year rule at that point.
Yes, this has been obviously met with cheers and wild parties in the internet. No, sorry, the opposite of that.
It's the opposite of that.
Basically, although I did find a few people that were saying they couldn't see a problem, and then they explained their reasoning behind it, which centered around all classic car owners are lovely people and would never let their car be dangerous.
Yeah.
That's where it boiled down to.
Which isn't really the case. So many classic owners, quite a lot of classic owners, are really quite careful about these things and do look after their cars. However, nothing can beat that lifting it up onto the ramps for that at least once a year, peer underneath, because many of us can't do that, you know. You can't really get under your car to have a good look and see what kind of state it's in. And classic cars even more so. I know that the oldest of mine is starting to get on a bit and is pretty rusty underneath. I can't tell. I have no way of checking in between times, really. And yeah.
Well, that's it. I mean, whereas a lot of these owners will be very good at, say, managing to get their car to run smoothly, getting the points to be set correctly, and things like this. And we're not saying that a lot of these people are doing it deliberately.
And the lights and the wipers and all the stuff on the top half of the outside and even the interior.
And by no means are we saying that the majority of people are doing any of this or choosing to ignore certain aspects of the car.
Or doing neglecting things on purpose.
It's just there's things they just can't do. They just don't have the capability, the expertise, or the equipment to be able to do these things. So I don't see the need to have made this anyway. I don't see why they've gone down the line when so many people say, well, I'm not confident that the people are going to be fine with their cars. I mean, we see how people treat their cars now.
Yeah.
Modern cars.
The number of cars I've seen recently with very, very bold tires, unbelievable.
Yeah. So
I don't want to be specific, but that afternoon in Walsall, in the Asda car park, there were very new cars with serious impounded defects that I could spot from standing there.
Yeah. We're in the show notes. There's going to be an article from Graham Eason. There's an article from our friends at Free Car Magazine, also explaining why, if you're not sure why, but why these, and if you don't feel we've explained this well through our general fear and trepidation, why this is not a good idea. But also I came across an article from Stuart Brown, who's the managing director of 3D Engineers Limited, discussing part of the changes, which will include that DVLA will be requesting confirmation from cars 40 years and older that they have not substantially changed them. And there is a set of criteria for what substantially changed means. This will be in the article, so go read it. Because if you have, then you've got to go through an MOT.
Yeah, there's a serious crackdown coming along for some of that kind of thing, and this involves engine swaps, significantly higher power outputs,
chassis changes.
Chassis changes.
If you've got a Q plate, you're going every year.
This is stuff that they're this is stuff that they follow up on anyway when you try and register your car. But what they're actually trying to do now is move it so that it's much harsher on some of these things. You find it, and this is not being specific, and this is not picking on, but stuff like Land Rovers, where things are hugely interswappable. Okay, where you can get a Mark II, a Mark II, or a Series 2 or a Series 3 now almost, and shoving a V8 or whatever from a newer vehicle. That is a substantial modification. And that's the kind of thing they're talking about. So you can't just get around it by putting stuff on an old chassis. And that's the kind of stuff that they are.
I mean, the general advice from the article is keep your car stock.
Yeah.
And if you do any changes, you need to be doing it with a professional company that you can get some guarantees that the quality of craftsmanship is up to what is required.
Yeah, it's
unless you are very good at what you do.
Yeah, it's a very interesting article. It brings up some stuff that maybe we wouldn't have considered. It's less of a man in the street concern, but people who do serious stuff to serious vehicles will be needing to take a good hard look at it.
Okay, let's go from reality to the imaginary.
Oh yeah. Speaking of old vehicles, so you remember when the Land Rover Defender was very much in its run-out phase. Then a chap called, the name of which
Jim Ratcliffe.
Escapes me. Thank you, Jim Ratcliffe, who runs the industrial chemical company Ineos, came up and said, "Don't worry, we're going to keep on building the Defender. We'll build the Defender. We're going to build new cars. It's going to be just like it's going to be a Defender." And
without speaking to Land Rover about
this. Land Rover sent him a letter to cease and desist. So what they've done now is they're launching a new project. And the project goes by the code name of the Ineos Grenadier. And it gets its own website called Project Grenadier. And because we don't care about literacy these days, it's project with a K. That's the K in the middle, not the start. It's not Project. It's Project.
I'm finding more and more to really dislike about this.
I knew that was coming. And what they're going to do is they're going to try and replace the Defender with what they say is a world-class, uncompromising 4x4.
Because there's none of those on the market.
Oh no, none at all. No, you wouldn't.
And another point that was brought up that I saw on Twitter, and I can't remember who to attribute this to, so apologies if it was you out there. But somebody did mention, yeah, because pickups haven't completely taken over that market since the Defender stopped anyway. Well,
even before, it's one of the reasons the Defender did stop was because, well, why have something
absolutely swamped it?
Why have a Defender when you can have, a Navara, a Hilux, a Ranger, whatever. But anyway, so they've got this vision. You can go to their website at their illiterately spelled website, and you can find out their vision from the what's the word it uses? I haven't even opened their website again. I did look at it earlier on. They can see their vision. You can see their small team of engineers. They're going to be using. It has videos of off-roaders off-roading, and it has pictures of the inspiration and these kind of things. So basically, there are pictures of other off-roaders, and yes, that's what they're going to do. They're also going to be launching a competition to help name the vehicle when it's there. It's all a bit vanity project in my opinion. I do find it's a little bit self-serving. I'm not really Yes, he describes himself as a visionary. That's the word.
Oh,
It's
wow.
almost as bad as guru, but never mind. So yes, it's this.
So this will never happen, really, is what we're saying.
I feel it's unlikely to ever go. I mean, they are looking for somewhere to manufacture whatever it is that they're going to manufacture with their very limited design team at the minute. I would really rather people put their money into the Ox.
Yes, quite. Let's back a vehicle that has a wider appeal, is more realistic, and actually has been designed and models built already.
Well, it's not just that, but the whole aim of the Ox is to actually help people who need vehicles like this but can't afford the existing ones, rather than as a plaything for an extreme sports enthusiast and global adventurer.
Quite,
in my opinion, anyway.
Yes, go back
Truly
the
my
Ox.
opinion.
That's what we say.
Back the Ox. That's what we say.
Ignore Fantasyland.
Yes, something like that. Anyway.
Right,
So
moving
that's
on.
the end of the follow-up. Finally.
Yes, new news.
Yes, you've got some news from the Renault-Nissan Alliance. It's not
No,
changed now, isn't it? The
Renault-Nissan
Renault-Nissan
Mitsubishi Alliance. Carlos Ghosn, in his march to be the CEO of all the car companies in the world, has outlined his 6-year. Because it's right, you stopped just in time before we had to pay royalties.
Yeah, I know.
Has outlined a 6-year plan for the new Rebel Alliance, and there's lots of uses of words like synergy and forecasts and revenue and sales and sharing.
Shall we run through these 10 points? Because they're really, some of the numbers are really quite incredible.
Okay, go on then.
So this is a plan for the next 6 years. Over the next 6 years, Renault, Nissan, Mitsubishi are aiming to, their objectives are to build more than 9 million vehicles sharing 4 common platforms. No small feat. To have the proportion of common powertrains rising from 1/3 to 3/4 of total volumes. To have they're expecting additional synergies involving electrification, connectivity, and autonomous technologies, but isn't everyone these days? They're going to launch 12 pure electric models, utilizing common EV platforms and components. They're going to have 40 vehicles to be launched with autonomous driving technology in your box. And last but not least, they're going to become an operator of a robo-vehicle ride-hailing services, which could well just mean a small sample one running routes in Japan, Andrew, okay? You guys can't see the faces he's pulling at the minute, but it's like some kind of mad, warped Muppet. As all the different... all the negative
emotions go across my face.
Across his face. Can I just say a couple of things? Number one, those are really nicely written objectives because they have an aim and they actually have a number for success. In them,
they are
very ambitious,
achievable, but what they are is they are specific, which I like.
Yes, that's the problem normally with organizational objectives, and I've got a week of that next week. But yeah,
I can get on board with this because this is making it very clear what will be judged as success. And a lot of that it will be overall cost savings because that's why you are sharing platforms. That's why you are have common powertrains and things like that. So that should hopefully build up their profits after investment to make this happen. Mm-hmm. Excuse me. It will hopefully build up their profits then.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm very interested to see more details as time goes on about the pure electric models.
It's a lot.
It's not really across those 3.
I suppose Mitsubishi always had the IMEV, didn't it? So you've got you'd have a tiny Mitsubishi.
Yeah, pure electric Outlander.
You'd have Zoe's. There's the new Leaf is coming anyway.
Yeah,
I suppose so.
The SUVs are going to be electric. There's going to be electric models of SUVs.
They might not be, but they might not be in all the territories as well. We've got to remember that sometimes Japan gets the crazy stuff.
Yeah, so I mean, they're not being specific and saying worldwide. They are just saying across the alliance.
Yeah,
across the
and it
parts
doesn't.
of the galaxy they control.
And they're not saying whether stuff's commercial or not. Sorry, I'm just running through what it is that they sell already. And actually, when I think about it, they're already at about 7 across them. Once you start including stuff like the ENV vans, Kangoo ZEs,
You got Infinity to add in there. They'll bound to come up with electric.
Infinity in there as well. Yeah. The more that you start to think through it, actually, the more realistic parts of it become. So
for me, it's the common platforms. That's what I think is going to be the big move for them if they can do that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you've got the cash cow and the
the cash cow and the Kadjar sharing.
Kadjar already sharing.
You've got the Duke and the Clio already almost share. They share major components.
Yeah, so it's easy to see how they can take the segments out of the platforms or add them in or whatever to make them fit the thing. So yeah, I mean that's just basic large scale car manufacturing business now. So, but it was I wasn't expecting them to come out with this.
No,
to be honest,
and to be so clear and on to be so open about it, I think, really, with the numbers. Often people will make statements in these things, but keep the numbers internal. But no, great stuff.
Yep. So we'll see how that one goes.
Yeah. At the same time, Nissan have reached a milestone this week. They have produced globally 150 million vehicles.
Congratulations. That's quite a lot.
It's quite a lot. It's taken them 84 years to do it.
It'd be interesting to see if there's one of those magical Tesla charts to see what happened, how much has happened recently.
There are actual both axes are labeled with sensible linear scales, and important key points on the graph are also marked on as well. So it took them 73 years to produce the first 100 million vehicles.
10 million.
No,
sorry, 100. Yeah, sorry, I do apologize. Yes, sorry.
Can't read the graph.
No, I'm not used to seeing numbers on them.
Well, quite. I'm not reading from the graph, actually. 73 years for Nissan to produce its first 100 million vehicles after it was founded in 1933. And then for the last 50 million, only took 11 years, which is quite incredible. Of the vehicles produced, 58.9% were produced in Japan, unsurprisingly. Next up is the US with 10.8%. Mexico and China at 7.9% come in next, and the UK comes in fifth at 6.2%. Spain 2.4%, and others 5.8%. But yay, that's a 6.2% of 150 million is still quite a lot.
It's good work.
So yeah, it's brilliant stuff. So congratulations, Nissan. That's brilliant, and they've got an infographic as well.
Yes.
Follow the link as ever in the show notes, and there is a very, very long infographic showing what led up to the 2017 Nissan Leaf. Cool. That, because it's relatively short tonight. I think everybody's on post post Frankfurt recovery mode. It's a bit like the couple of weeks after the Geneva show are always pretty much dead for news. But in the meantime, this really is the point where I remind you about our Patreon. Yes, some of you have the ability to watch us record this live and in video, because
lucky you.
Yes, because you want to see Andrew drinking beer.
Being enabled.
Yes. But that's only one of the things that we offer as part of our Patreon offering. So if you go to our website, go to motoringpodcast.com and click on the Become a Patron orange button on the right hand side there, you'll see the news feed that's in there, or as much as you can without being a patron yet. And you'll also be able to see the different levels and what we offer you at each of those levels. Anything from $1 a month is fantastically appreciated. and yeah, we're trying to get one new patron every month. So please, if you could let that person be you. We know that not everyone can achieve that. So if you haven't already, please, if you could like the show, tell your mates about it, and leave feedback via the podcast playing platform of your choice, then that would be just fantastic.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. Right. Moving on to more new news.
Can you show me and tell me about the driving test?
I may show you and tell you about the driving test. There are new changes to the driving test, which come into force from the 4th of December this year, 2017, in case you are listening in the future. And that means, and it's possibly already in place, but depends if you're masochistic enough to go back and listen to our weekly ramblings. But what they are going to be adding is there's 20 minutes of driving around, but also there's going to be some questions that have been termed as show me and tell me. Now you get one of the show me's and one of the tell me's.
The tell me bit already exists, I believe.
Right, but I think they may have added some.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, back in the day when dinosaurs were roaming and I passed my test, I was asked to describe where 350 yards was or something like that. So we've always had that element of tell me. Mm-hmm. But the show me now is they'll be asked things like and phrase it if we can all remember when we had a driving instructor next to us. When it's safe, show me how you'd wash and clean the rear windscreen. When it's safe, show me how you'd wash and clean the front windscreen.
You're not going to read all of these like that.
No, I'm not. It's not listed a week.
Yeah, that's my job.
Thing. They want you to show that you understand other elements of a car. Mm-hmm. So there'd be things like the horns and demist and that sort of stuff. So that's that. But in the tell me side of things, they asked questions along the lines of how would you make sure that your head restraint is correctly adjusted to provide the best protection, things like that. So you'll be asked one of each of those as you go along, which I think is a good thing, because the more that somebody understands about their cars, the better. Having been passengers with other people who aren't car nuts, I do get sometimes surprised that people don't really know what their car can do.
Yes. Or how to make it do stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't mean fancy stuff.
No, to take advantage of the simple buttons they have. They don't. It's like they're just not aware. They've just not taken the time to prod buttons or read a manual. They're just getting.
Yeah, but these are fundamentals.
Yeah,
and it goes a little bit further than that. He says, "Open the bonnet and tell me how you check you have a safe level of hydraulic brake fluid." You know, there's. I think I'm trying to work out. There's many people I know I could ask that of, and they go and have a bit of a breakdown, if you excuse the pun, over that happening. But yeah, actually, quite a lot of my friends and family I know could do that.
Yep.
But yeah,
so no, interesting. I mean, it's good. More that makes people show that they understand a car and what cars do and should be doing, the better.
Yes, agreed.
But I like the longer driving bit.
Yes,
it's going to be 20 minutes now. So
I thought it was short. Okay. Including following directions from a sat nav. It's quite impressive.
As in, do not blindly follow directions from a sat nav. That's part of it now. Is if a sat nav's trying to take you down a road and there's road signs say you shouldn't, it's you as the driver have to stop and not do that, which you and I know. But how many times? I mean, it's probably not as much now, but it was common for a long while. Oh, this driver went off into this field, and well, the
different sat navs. You do need to know thy sat nav, because different sat navs phrase things differently and at different times as well.
But I also think sat navs have got a lot better as well.
But there is that too. Yeah, much better.
Yeah. Right. There's a thing you found.
There's a thing I found. We're not going to discuss it in a huge amount of detail because that really belongs in a politics show.
We don't want to be too depressed either.
We don't want to be too depressed. I mean, I've read it. It is a little bit wristletty, but it's published by Sky News, and it's part of their Brexit Forensics series. So they're taking a look at some of the impacts of the forthcoming changes to the UK's relationship with the European Union.
That's quite neutrally put. Well done.
I thought that was really good. I just thought of that. Well and it's one of the long reads that they have as part of that, and it's called "Why the Car Industry is Worried," and it's by Faisal Islam, their political editor. And it is a good few hundred yards. It's proper, a few hundred words. I mean, just proper long form journalism, and he's talking to very senior people in the British car industry, and they're talking to them about where they are and where their positions are and what they're doing and what they're doing about it and what they would expect to know by now and what they don't know by now, as a result of the way that the whole Brexit,
the government's tactics are.
The government's tactics are, because maybe things aren't necessarily being shared if they're, if they're known by the government at any point. So have a read of it. Have a read of it because it's very, very interesting. I'm trying to stay completely politically neutral, which people know I'm not at all. But yeah, have a read. No matter which side you of the 52% you are in at the moment, then do have a read about it, because it is very interesting how it faces the car makers. And whilst we may grumble that there are no British car makers anymore, then an awful lot of vehicles and an awful lot of componentry is built and also passes through.
Well, there was only the 76 billion that was brought into the UK economy last year.
Well, there was only that, yes. So really, it's not desperately important, and I'm sure that tourism will make up for it.
Come see a burning country.
Right, moving on from that, because that was always going to happen.
Right, and finally.
Self-praise is no one, but I thought I did rather well there.
You did fantastically well. I mean, that's why you had it and I didn't, because there would have been an awful lot of swearing, and I would have had to do an awful lot of editing tomorrow.
Yes, you're bad enough as it was. Anyway.
Right, moving on. And finally, and something to cheer us up a little bit, because we needed it. By golly, we needed it.
It's really good, actually. I like it.
This is an Autocar article I stumbled across that is really celebrating the wonderfully kitsch motoring adverts that we used to have. And there are some absolute belters. I personally, the first one that really smacked me in the mouth as wonderful was the Lancia Beta. In a few years, you'll look on it as a good investment. And, there is the fantastic Celebrite car polish for beautiful bodywork. You have to see these pictures to believe them, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. And I like Lada clothing. I need a new jacket for the winter. And then the filth stripper.
Yeah. Well,
I want jizzer in my life because it cleans engines beautifully.
There better be a beep over that, I tell you. And also, Sterling Moss has no time to lose. That's why he uses
of the thing. I can't.
Give over. Yes, there are many.
The new Lancia Gamma. Yours could be the only one you'll see.
I think they've all been owned by Martin Port from Classic and Sports Car, haven't they?
They rusted before they got them. But yeah, there's some wonderful.
If you put power steering on full lock, then it did something horrible to something else. That was one of the problems with those ones. Yes. Put on the hairy look. The hairy look is Velvetex, which is basically furry bits for your Renault. Very strange. Anyway, loads of stuff. There are about 20 odd of them. There's some serious stuff in there. I mean, I like the Roots group. Put a new Go into your car with a Roots replacement engine. It's like, yeah, okay. That's like people advertising the fact that your engine is going to go in your car.
Oh, but that's no good now with the new regulations coming in May 2018. I would have to declare that this is...
You have to declare
anyway.
No,
because it happened before 1988. So
as long as it was before 1988, you're fine, yeah. There's some great stuff in there. Everything from Peugeot 604s, lots of Lada stuff, lots of Eastern European brands, really, as well as sexist British ones.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you can see how far we've come from that.
You can, mercifully.
Yes, quite.
We've come from that. So. Anyway, does that pretty much round it up for this week? There's a quick thing which I didn't mention, I haven't added in the show notes, is that this weekend, lots and lots of car stuff happening around the country. There is Sywell Classic Props and Pistons. It's happening at Sywell Airfield, not far from me. I don't think there's anything on at Rockingham. There is the Omlegato meeting.
Cronus and Cars at Porsche Reading
at Porsche
Sunday.
Yeah, Porsche and Reading on Sunday. There's something else as well, which I've forgotten as well. There was a third thing that I got invited to. Anyway, lots of stuff going on this weekend. If you are interested in getting out and about, then do go have a quick search on the internet, because there's plenty of stuff happening.
Yep. We'll have a special edition out this week as well, towards the back end of this week, which will be the separate sort of collation of the Subaru Outback review, along with a new summary which we recorded last night.
Yes.
And there'll be more special editions next week as well.
Yes. Can you hear that? That's Andrew knuckling down and editing those special editions.
I know, it's shocking having to do work again.
No, it's great. I appreciate it, even if nobody else does. Anyway, that's really it for this week. Sorry, it is a super short one. What are we at? 35 minutes, 32 minutes-ish, probably by this point. But don't forget, folks, that between now and next week, when hopefully there'll be a bit more news, you can give us any feedback and share your thoughts with the show at Motoring Podcast on Twitter and Instagram, on Facebook, and on the contact page on motoringpodcast.com, the hub of all our activities. Don't forget about Patreon via motoringpodcast.com/support, and also about leaving a rating and review on iTunes or however your podcast app lets you do such a thing. It really does matter. I know I say that every time, but it's important, folks. It really is. Andrew, how best to get in touch with you and accuse you of humongous Brexit bias?
The best way to get in touch with me is via Twitter. If you search for Crack Windscreen, I will be happy to shout back at you. No problem whatsoever. And Alan, if people want to tell you how fantastic you were at being apolitical in that Brexit thing, unlike me, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
The best way to get in touch with me there is, again, via Twitter, where I'm at AJP Bradley, BRADLEY. We'll be back next week, but until then, I've been Alan Bradley.
I've been Andrew Clues.
And safe motoring.